Unfortunately, fate would not smile on Robotnik that day. Max won the battle, and despite the Overlanders' tricks and treachery, he spared their king and declared the Great War over. Robotnik's other plans fell through as well, with his secret cyborg project killing most of his subjects. But true genius never gives up, and eventually Robotnik discovered Charles Hedgehog's medical research, the Roboticizer, a device that could turn flesh and bone into metal and gears, designed to preserve the terminally ill or injured, allowing them to live freely while searching for a cure. However,
Без шуток, само по себе изобретение звучит классно. Пока не осознаешь, что во многом... Просто мне интересно, это ж... Насколько сильно его переделали, чтобы оно реально превращало, по сути говоря... Ну, животных, таких вот бездушных существ. То есть, насколько сильно там оно переработано было от оригинального дизайна Чака.
The machine had never been tested, and after some tampering by Julian, the device left Jules as a motionless robotic husk. His life saved, but at what cost? This horrifying outcome leading to Uncle Chuck blaming his own arrogance and handing his research over to Robotnik, who he hoped would be the bright mind needed to fix his mistake. And it just gets better! While Charles remains a hollow, empty man, Bernadette decides to take matters into her own hands, discovering in horror that her husband is being used as a robotic servant, who is then ordered to roboticize her as well!
Мать твою за ногу.
Robotnik tells the already broken Charles that he caught Bernadette fooling around with the roboticizer, and that this was the result. Something he had created had stolen his family's happiness. If only he knew how egotistical that thought was. Forced to raise his nephew alone, Charles was consumed by guilt and gave up. An honorable fate? I'll leave that to you. Meet the Prowers, Amadeus and Rosemary, a couple expecting their baby to be born very soon.
Извините, просто так странно. Видите, такую повязку прям... Ну, хотя ладно. Просто, извините, просто всегда вот это смущало, когда такие довольно мультяшные дизайны сочетаются вообще с темой войны и прочего. Ага, сказал человек, который до этого смотрел там по-моему, «Война единорогов», или как назывался этот ужас.
However, with love comes loss, as the suspicious Amadeus catches Robotnik in the act of testing the roboticizer, is captured, and then goes to meet his wife. Little baby boy, born. Look at him, Amadeus. Look at your son. He turns away. After all, what love could come from a body without a heart? As we end on smiles, surrounding a saddened and betrayed Rosemary, who cries herself to sleep at a father who will never hold his son. Okay, so...
Ёбаный рот. Без шуток звучит довольно жестенько.
Unfortunately, in times like this, just when things are getting good, someone inevitably asked, who's thinking of the children? And unfortunately, we have to. So, throughout the comic, there's times where we see the freedom fighters as kids, contextualizing their bonds, showing how they become a team, how they found their old clubhouse, blah blah blah, you get it. Homework. Now, this was originally assigned by Professor Lowart. He wants you to do a presentation on one member of the original Freedom Fighters. All I ask is that you give it your all for the professor. Please. He's been really down lately. I know that every year this is his favorite part of this class. He gets in a Sonic outfit, he doesn't shave, he really goes all out. Please make something with heart. Find one specific trait from these kids and dig deep into what draws you into them most. That passion will come through. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I hope if you really do give it your all, and the professor sees it, that it can cease the war within that man. My friend. My friend.
Попей ты водички.
Classic.
Treatment of fake tales communicates something to the reader. Not only shouldn't you care about these narrative threads, you shouldn't care about these characters. They'll get tossed away, discarded, or even erased at a moment's notice, and it will not be treated like a big deal. It might not even get brought up again. This
Мацки, господи, я уже забыл про него.
isn't really me complaining about the comic either. No, this is purely about tempering my expectations and understanding what I'm in for. But remember how I said that this comic keeps you on your toes? Yeah, that isn't just about the variable art or the unexpectedly fun issues. It's also with its characters. Because even though we have moments like this where Sonic kills his friend Nate Morgan and doesn't realize it, or Fake Tails disappears only to never get mentioned again, we also have stories that treat these characters with a surprising amount of dignity and care. Somehow, in the middle of all this aimlessness.
Честно, из-за этого мне не особо нравятся такие, знаете, большие серии комиксов, например, или произведений, в которых постоянно меняются авторы, постоянно происходит какая-то смена тона, из-за чего ты постоянно теряешься. То ты читаешь какую-то, знаете, драматичную историю, в которой персонажи прописаны невероятно хорошо, ты им сопереживаешь, потом внезапно какая-то хрень, в которой все либо помирают, либо это делается ради чернушного юмора, либо «Эй, а давайте сделаем хреновый флешбэк!» или «Эй, а давайте внезапно телепатон». Это будет что-то такое детское, довольно невинное. Хотя до этого были довольно серьезные истории. Вот меня это всегда, блядь, отталкивало в таких вот историях, когда вот настолько сильное непостоянство.
The comic still manages to create some strong and endearing character stories that, at times, genuinely moved me. For instance, take Mistaken Identity Crisis. Here, Antoine, wow, yeah, I haven't talked about him in a while. Anyway, sorry, Antoine's dad has finally returned to Knothole with his free will intact. He and Ant obviously need to reconnect. However, just as they're talking and going for a stroll, a portal opens and Sonic, the Zone Cop, crashes through. Sonic rushes in, grabs him, and takes him to get medical treatment. Seeing this, Ant's dad can't help but praise Sonic, always with the bravery and the heroism. His father must be very proud. Understandably, Antoine, who views himself as something of a coward, feels insecure. Isn't Sonic the type of son his dad wants? No, the type of son his dad deserves. However, when Sonic notices that Ant is upset, he devises a plan. He'll dress up as a thug causing trouble and let Ant stop him. That way, his dad will see him as a hero, and everyone gets to be happy. Already, there are a few things I like. For one, Mooney's art is wonderfully expressive and sells these characters' emotions exceptionally well, especially Ant's sad face.
Точно, потом муравей.
I mean, look at the poor little guy. Don't worry, I already love you just the way you are, buddy. Meanwhile, Sonic used to be something of a bully to Ant, but now he's changed. He understands what it's like to want a good relationship with your dad, to have him back after a long time away, and he wants to help Ant be as happy as possible. Even if a plan to fool Ant's dad is morally dubious, it stems from such an understandable, caring place that it only makes Sonic more likable, while selling just how badly Ant wants his dad's respect and admiration. Soon we learn the reason for Sonic's arrival. Evil Sonic is wreaking havoc.
О, господи, блядь. Это ебучие, блядь, очки и куртка.
Has made his way to this zone. However, Ant is blissfully unaware, bragging to his dad about impossible feats of heroism, which his dad begins to gently question. Ant, believing that this is still part of the plan, goes for the attack and one-shots Evil Sonic, saving the day and possibly the multiverse. Sonic congratulates him and Antoine is very confused. I really like getting to refocus on Ant's character like this, without undermining the somewhat cowardly characteristics that are key to him. The story reminds us that he can be competent if he believes in himself. And it does that with a quick, snappy, comedic story about a father and son trying to bond after a long time apart. It's a cute little one-off, and from the art to the writing, reminded me of the gag
Все очень хорошо нарисовано, прям отлично.
days and some of the wonderful stories there. Really, it feels good to know that the comic hasn't completely forgotten those earlier characters and that earlier side of itself, even if they are more off to the side right now. As another example, we have the story Upgrade, and I really like this one too. Here, Bunny's body begins to betray her, kind of like that dream she had back in the gag days. See, it's all coming around. Here, though, her robotic parts are even starting to poison her organic half. If the doctors don't remove them and replace them with new versions quickly, she will die. However, if they do this, Bunny can never be de-roboticized, as the process won't work on anything but her original robotic limbs. They could also try to de-roboticize her with the Portabot, but since it was destroyed, it's very likely that the modified version they have been using will kill her if the specs aren't exactly the same, which they probably aren't. There really is only one option here, and it's not what Bunny has ever wanted for herself. And the art by Fry sells that despair wonderfully with these silent panels. And then Antoine appears, coming to comfort Bunny any way he can. This interaction is only a single page, yet the dialogue here conveys so much tact and care to the situation. The way Bunny asks, "Do you think you could still love me if I remain like I am for the rest of my life?" feels so much more real than if she had said something like, "If I stayed part robot." It strips that absurdity away and gets straight to the heart of the matter. And as Antoine assures her that as long as they can be together, he will love her, we get the wonderful addition of Bunny appreciating Antoine, not just for being her boyfriend, but for being her best friend. It's so sweet, and while this is the most focus these two get as a couple for a while, I always appreciate just seeing them be so supportive of each other, even if it's just in the background. Now, if these were just some small isolated events, they wouldn't mean that much to me though. Sure, they would still be nice, but I wouldn't be talking about them like this. So obviously, there are plenty of these stories that take on a similar tone, that focus on similar themes of connection and friendship. For example, I'll Shoot the Sheriff. This one also involves Ant's dad. See, before his dad regained his free will, he was one of Robotnik's tyrants, and he ruled over Robbo the Hedgehog's hometown. Now Ant's dad has regained control over himself, but Rob doesn't trust him. No, he's seen this guy do too many terrible things.
Если Даклса в черешню превратят.
So he decides that he's going to spy on Ant's dad, watching his every move, waiting for the moment he slips up and shows his true colors. Of course, Ant's dad doesn't even know what's going on and eventually snaps, facing Rob head on, saying, rather than spying, why not keep me company? From here, they play games together, share stories around a campfire, and practice shooting with a bow and arrow. And after that, Rob leaves, understanding that this man is not the cruel monster he once was. In fact, he's a kind, gentle soul, and now a friend. Of course, this arc is simple, but that isn't what matters. What matters is that it's incredibly sweet and gives its characters proper room to breathe and deal with their problems. After all, it would have been incredibly easy to never have Rob acknowledge what Ant's dad had done, or to simply trust that he's okay now, which might have been fine, but
Может, не надо хигау делать, Эбби, пожалуйста.
this feels so much more real. He saw so much pain and destruction seemingly at this man's hands, so who can blame him for being a bit wary? And when Ant's dad decides to just connect with him, well, it takes a character who I only cared about because he was someone's dad and makes him quite charming all on his own. He won't hide from those who dislike him or allow misunderstandings to go on and on. He's competent, active, and just a really nice guy. Overall, it's another super solid character-focused story. And the comic only continues to invest me in characters I'd never expect with a girl named Hope. This story's narrative framework is quite distinct, as it's a letter written by Robotnik's niece Hope to Sally, telling her what happened while her family was in space and
Серьезно? Интересно.
some history about the Great War. She talks about her fear upon seeing Sonic for the first time, but also how she came to understand that Eggman was the truly evil one. She expresses her gratitude for how Sonic and Sally saved her, gave her a second chance, even if it was too late for her dad and grandma. In concept, this is already quite nice. We're getting a better idea of the animosity between Overlanders and our furry friends, but it's taking on a particularly personal tone, told through the eyes of a little girl who, through connection and kindness, came to understand the error in her thinking. The presentation also helps a lot with this detailed art that's built to lean into the way she sees things. It's character focused in a way I haven't seen much of in this comic.
Я непривычно видеть Соника вот таким.
The narration is great too, with some genuinely touching lines. At the end, Hope expresses her wish that she could stay in Knothole, a society that once seemed alien to her, but now she can appreciate it for its beauty and its people, a people she'd like to be a part of. And so the royal family grants her this wish. It's a shockingly lovely little story about a girl who's lost nearly everything, finding a new place to belong. Then there's Forgiven, which similarly focuses on finding acceptance. Here though, this disdain doesn't come from an outside force, it comes from within. See, Uncle Chuck has returned to Knothole, but he's also become a recluse of sorts, hyper-focused on his research. When he says he can't make it to the Wolfpack's going-away party, Sonic brings the party to his workshop, but Chuck is uncomfortable. He steps outside, he's gotta get away from the other people. Why? Well, because he created the roboticizer, and he blames himself for what it did to all these people. Beyond that, while controlled by Eggman, he specifically helped roboticize the people at this party. All he wants is to be forgiven, and yet he can't forgive himself. Until, of course, these Robians offer him the forgiveness he so desperately needs, making it clear that no one else blames him for what happened. He just needs to forgive himself first. Again, this is another quick side story that's willing to pause for a moment, willing to show the emotional after effects of the terrible things these characters have gone through. And it doesn't feel redundant or unnecessarily slow. It feels honest and real. It makes me appreciate Uncle Chuck's personality so much more because I'm growing to understand his distinct struggles. Sticking with the Hedgehog family, we have the last Robian. This one starts off really strange, where suddenly a whole bunch of Knothole citizens show up de-roboticized. All of them except one, that is. Sonic's father, Jules. From here, this story is about Sonic's family focusing on getting Jules back to normal, not content to let him suffer as the last Robian. Chuck works tirelessly and Sonic confronts Eggman to see if he did this just to torture his family. The narration is back, but here it actually elevates the material, creating the sense of dread surrounding Jules' state. But then we actually get Jules' perspective. See, he's not at all worried about himself, he's worried about his family, worried as a husband, brother, and father. realized that when we were roboticized, we were happier. Why should now be any different because I still am? Instead of focusing on the fact that I haven't changed, how about celebrating the fact everyone else has? I already kind of liked Sonic's dad and his silly hair, but now he's awesome. My man just wants everyone else to be happy for what they've regained, instead of focusing on his loss. It's incredibly wholesome. Now, does it kind of suck that we've just casually dropped another long-term goal like it was nothing and stripped away some of the consequences of robotic range? Sure, but remember, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. However, this section of the comic has
Забыли совсем.
some longer-running character development that's surprisingly strong too. And this even counts for characters I didn't want to care about. That's right, folks. The stinky man
О боже, блять, он!
himself is back. Geoffrey St. John. At a certain point, I would have rather the writers just thrown this guy out, get rid of the whole man, but he's a ton of fun during this era. Seriously, he's gone from my least favorite wet fart of a man to my most favorite wet fart of a man. And I love how much I hate him, and I hate how much I love him. See, this comic has decided to ditch his romantic rivalry with Sonic and instead leaned into his status as an adult authority figure. Now Geoffrey is this purposefully obnoxious obstacle in Sonic and his friends' day-to-day lives, trying to make sure these crazy kids abide by the rules. Basically, he's an annoying babysitter to them now, and it's great. All right, boy, how did he get there? How did you get where? Blast! Has Princess Sally contacted you lately? Guess not. Don't be late to school. I sure hate that guy.
Oh no, he's talking about Sonic, but Sonic's a hero. I'm sure he has a good reason for taking it.
Wait a sec. Mina and I just saw Sonic. He said it was up to him to get the sword back.
Gaff.
I've investigated far too many cases to be fooled by your unskilled attempt at covering up. I want answers, and I want them now.
Ёбаный парадойк, пошел вон.
He's so dumb. Over and over again, he fails to do anything right or to make any real difference. In fact, he screws up a lot, destroying the reprogrammed bot that Chuck sends to give important information to Knothole, putting the royal family in danger when he doesn't realize that Heavy and Bomb have been turned against them, not to mention getting them captured in the first place. And finally, for failing as Elias' behind-the-scenes advisor. He's kind of a worthless character now, but since I disliked him so much, it's fun to watch him fail and be punished for it.
Господи, как же рисунок варьируется, здесь он просто ужасен.
Now, we aren't being hit in the head with how cool Geoffrey is supposed to be. He's simply bad at his job, a comic relief antagonist of sorts who doesn't pose a serious threat, but certainly poses a funny one. But then something strange happens. The comic acknowledges this. Geoffrey acknowledges this. He lists off his failures to Hershey and decides that he won't be returning to active duty. He doesn't deserve to. But then Hershey encourages him, saying that he's a hero. So now Geoffrey will try to atone properly, returning to duty but to do better this time, with his first mission being to retrieve Prince Elias, who, in part due to Geoffrey's repeated bad advice, felt he wasn't right for the throne and fled from Knothole. It's like Geoffrey's an actual dude now, like a man, like a person, not some cardboard cutout cool guy wannabe. He feels things, has regrets, strives to be better. And oh my gosh, do I actually kind of like Geoffrey St. John? Are you okay, dude? Am I okay? And you know who else has some good moments? Sally. In particular, she gets a chance to have
Слава богу, а то уже чуть не забыли про нее.
hearts with her mom and brother. We take a moment to breathe, to acknowledge that her life has been filled with loss after loss, and that even connecting with the family she once wanted back so badly is difficult. Their experiences are so different. She's changed as a person. But Elias in particular reaches out. He wants what's best for his sister and is willing to open up to her and be vulnerable, to give her a shoulder to lean on. He's also one of the only people in the comic who seems to understand that Sally has earned her place as a leader, even if Max is obsessed with Elias taking the crown. Whatever though, Elias gets it. And he gets even cooler as we find out that this man took matters into his own hands by sneaking into Robotropolis to retrieve a cure for his mother, ultimately bringing his family back together after a decade apart. We get this great little moment where Alicia squeezes Max's hand as she finally wakes up and they're reunited, and it's actually just really nice. Elias may not want to be king, but he's a king in my heart, baby. I love this guy. His stuff only gets better after he leaves the kingdom and decides to live a quiet life. He gets himself a wife, he's gonna have a kid, and he really just wants to be left alone. However, Eggman...
Ну, честно говоря, после всего, что произошло, его можно понять. На самом деле, не знаю, мне всегда нравились арки, в которых это принц или король решает, значит, просто хоть найти спокойную жизнь и немного тишины.
Eventually finds this place. Elias's response? He wants to run and get his family out of there. Normally, this could be obnoxious, but honestly, I get it, man. There's really no reason why he should need to be some big boy leader. Look where it gets you in this comic. He understands that he's really some guy who simply happened to be born to royalty, not this natural-born leader who deserves respect. There are better people for this job than him, and at this point, this feels like an understanding of his own weaknesses rather than some moral failure on his part. On top of that, it's clear that he's simply
Реально его можно понять, у него как бы семья есть.
afraid his old life will come back and ruin his new one. But when push comes to shove, he still chooses to stay and fight, protecting his village, even if he makes it clear he won't be returning to the throne. It helps that he doesn't take out any of his annoyance or animosity on Sally either. No, when she and Sonic appear to save this little town, they're invited to stay for dinner. Sally has accepted him for who he is, and he has accepted her. Now they can have an honest relationship defined by their love for one another as a brother and sister, rather than politics and birthrights. It's also nice that he's out here helping our boy Sonic with his relationship troubles, defending him when Sally mistakenly believes that he let Max get hurt by being irresponsible. Actually though, Sally is part of another character-based arc over this section of the comic. That's right, folks. It's romance time. I mean,
Oh my.
of course it is. Sally and Sonic kissed all the way back in, what is it now? Issue 50? Wow, it's been a while. Either way, this hog's been looking for his nuts for some time now. So what have they been up to during this whole time? Well, nothing. Their romance stopped. For some reason, the writers have been acting like Sonic and Sally are just acquaintances and made it so they've stopped being as close. At first, it made sense with Sonic going on his trip with
Странно, куда бы это все продвинулось-то? Наверное, сценаристы просто решили, как сказать, повременить, пососторожничать.
Tails and Sally's royal duties growing more overbearing. By now, Sally has been cooped up inside the castle, and if she wants to see Sonic, she would need to sneak out. Oh, okay. Kinda a shame that we've backtracked like this, but fine, there's a reason for it. Now we can even have a fun romance plot where Sally needs to go against her parents to be with Sonic, where they need to team up against an outside force. But no, that's not the case. Because when Sally does sneak out of the castle to meet with Sonic, she sees something. Sonic kissing another girl.
Опачки.
So is Sonic genuinely in another relationship now? Is that hog spreading things around a bit? No, of course not. This girl just kissed Sonic and Sally happened to walk in at just the wrong time. Now, for the next 24 issues, or 2 real-world years, we're going to be trapped in some dumb love triangle. And why? Well, because this stupid character decided to screw it all up, that's why. I mean, why would I want to get invested in her? Why would I care about what she's going through? All she's doing is backtracking a plot that's already gone on for far too long. And yet, as much as I dislike the placement of this love triangle,
Ну-ка.
I've got to say, I actually like this character. In fact, she's kinda a highlight for this section of the comic. Mina Mongoose. Now, Mina's been around for a little while, but she hasn't been relevant to discuss until now. We first
Finally! Наконец-то персонаж, который имеет очень незнакомое мне имя.
She hasn't been relevant to discuss until now. We first met her immediately after Robotnik's return as he launched a surprise invasion on Mobotropolis, capturing the unsuspecting citizens and roboticizing them. Mina is one of the few survivors, and we get a pretty good moment as Sonic has to stop her from charging blindly into Eggman's base to find her mother. Sonic is incredibly blunt here, telling Mina that her mom is most likely a mindless machine by now. Yet it doesn't come across as cruel, because Sonic lets her know that this is a truth he's grappling with due to Uncle Chuck and Mutski also being captured. All they can do now is make sure that the people who are safe, including Mina, stay that way. Next time we catch up with Mina again, she's not doing so well. She feels pretty alienated from everyone else in Knothole. These folks are happy because they were able to be reunited with friends and family who had escaped, but at that point, Mina still didn't have anyone. All the people she loved were roboticized. For a bit, she finds a purpose in babysitting these orphan kids, whom she obviously can relate to. But eventually, the loneliness becomes too much, and Mina resigns herself to face Eggman, telling Sonic that she hopes that even if she gets roboticized, she will at least finally be with her mother, and maybe even get a chance to ask Eggman why. Wow, yeah, that's a cool scene. That's Mondo cool, even. This leads to Sonic having to choose between saving Mina or retrieving the sword and rescuing his uncle. The sword is also one of their most powerful weapons, a terrible thing to have fall into Eggman's hands.
Короче, понятно. Небольшой подбэкграунд к Black Knight'у.
And as Sonic points out, Mina basically wants to be roboticized. Of course, though, he chooses to save Mina, because while it doesn't make sense logically, it doesn't have to. At this point, it's really not hard to imagine why Mina would fall in love with Sonic, especially when they have many other things in common like super speed and roboticized parents. So that's why we end up here. As such, with all this context, it's really hard for me to dislike Mina for anything she does in this section of the comic. She comes across as a young, lost girl, her baggy clothes and oversized gloves giving her this endearing, clumsy dork vibe. That way she awkwardly tries to curtsy to Sally, how she waves her arms around when she's happy, or how she instinctively chases after Sonic only to try and hide behind her gloves. It's super cute and makes her arc surprisingly sympathetic. Because of this, she also never feels like a genuine threat to the Sonic-Sally relationship either. She's just a cute little girl with a cute little crush. And it's those feelings that inspire her to join the Freedom Fighters. So this gal who once lamented being rescued at all wants to help save others. Pretty admirable stuff there. As such, she goes to Sonic and asks to be trained. She's fast too, but she needs to learn how to control that speed. However, even though she seems so noble on the surface, her heart isn't in the right place. The truth is that she simply wants to be closer to Sonic, to get to spend time with him and hopefully for him to notice her. However, when she's suddenly put in an actual life or death situation, she freezes and nearly gets herself and these kids killed. Ultimately, she resigns, understanding that her motivation wasn't acceptable, that it put others' lives in danger, and that in general, she wasn't genuinely interested in being a freedom fighter. So it just seems like she's a failure, unable to help in this world or work for a greater cause. She really is simply a side character meant to be rescued by others in times of trouble. But fortunately, the comic isn't willing to leave her there. Instead, Sonic learns that she has a talent she doesn't even know about. She's a fantastic singer. So he puts her up on a stage and she performs. Through this, she makes a lot of people happy, giving them a much-needed reprieve from the doom and gloom of their lives, always drawing in a crowd with her voice, and soon she's holding concerts. Eventually, she even uses her tours to spread hope around the world in a fight against Eggman. Sure, it may not be the same as saving the village from the bad man himself, but it certainly means something. She can help, even if it's in a different way than she initially imagined, and with something she truly has a passion for. Plus, it's honestly just really cool
Прикольно, то есть получается по факту она местный айдол. Это мило.
we get a character who wants to fight but realizes that they aren't cut out for it, like most people, you know? Actually, her acceptance of this is even admirable in its own right. It's good to know what you're capable of and what your limits might be. Because of this, she's also representative of the civilians at
Мне
large,
нравится, что на фон поставил тему Эми из Хироёза.
reminding us why Sonic and his friends protect this home in the first place, and of the happiness they can find in their day-to-day lives through something like music. Heck, even Eggman loves her stuff, though he's more of an OG fan.
I mean, even I have to admit her first album had something to it, but after that, ugh, who does she think she's kidding?
But alright, let's actually address the love triangle. Sometimes it's annoying, mainly due to how long this misunderstanding goes on for. Definitely a pet peeve of mine is when characters jump in at just the wrong moment then leave before what's obviously a mistake can be cleared up. Sometimes though it's also pretty funny and leans into the wonderfully dumb dialogue of this era in charming ways. Like when Mina and Sally both hear Sonic playing the guitar and think, so suave, so skilled, so Sonic, so raw, so passionate, so Sonic, which is so dumb.
Да, это, блин, воистину как-то глупо было.
So stupid. So Archie Sonic. Eventually we get to the end of this love triangle, and you know what? This is actually good too. See, Sally gets kidnapped by Knack the Weasel and his gang, who want to use her to get a ransom from her parents. When Sonic rushes off to save her, Mina is close behind, and this quickly results in a heated confrontation. Sally is absolutely a highlight of this issue. Her unique skill set, her ability to connect with and manipulate people is on full display, sold wonderfully through her body language and expressions. She manages to convince her captors by playing the disgruntled teenager who lashes out at her parents, saying that she'll join their side and that they can keep stringing her parents along, getting more and more money. Then she cracks some nuts and takes off with a literal gun. Honestly, it's been a long time since we've seen Sally take control of a situation like this, and it's great. This is her own area of competence and expertise, one of her unique appeals, and it's nice that the comic is giving her some time to shine. Plus, Sally holding a normal gun and not some blaster is something special. Fun fact, actually, according to Ken Penders, Archie higher-ups at the time were so hands-off that they didn't even know Sally had been written to hold a real gun, and when they found out, they were pissed. Don't know why, it's really cool.
Да ладно, прикольно. Какая разница-то?
Kinda hot. Anyway, after Sonic rushes in to help Sally take out these guys, it finally happens. They kiss. The relationship has mended. No more wishy-washy, will they, won't they crap. Sonali is here, my friends. Remember that time Sonic told fake tales that he didn't want a girlfriend, that he loved the friend zone? Yeah, that was a bald-faced lie. Sonic might like the Sailor Moon zone, but it looks like he likes the Mako zone even better. This ain't any hog anymore, folks. This is a horn hog, baby. So are you ready to pop the question? Am I? Yes. Fantastic! Well, I mean, fantastic for them and probably for the reader if they've made it this far. But for Mina, her whole world shatters. So does this mean that Mina is going to resent Sally or start trying to sabotage their relationship? No. Instead, when Knack tries to shoot Sally, she jumps in front of a real, actual, life-threatening, editor-defined capital B bullet and saves her life like the mad lass she is. I love her. Well, she obviously did this for Sonic's sake. We also know from previous issues that Mina likes Sally too, even checking up on her as she lays in her hospital bed, as she assures everyone that as far as her wound is concerned, she'll get over it. Get it? It's double meaning. Oh, baby. Now, does any of this get what I would consider a proper resolution? Not particularly. Mina just kind of drops off from here for a long while, interacting sparingly with Sonic, and I don't even really know what the poor girl learned from all this. I mean, she's gotten her mom back, so that's good, but again, with the messaging where I'm not really sure what the story's trying to be about and why we're moving from one thing to the next sometimes. In fact, I'd say all of these stories I've mentioned either end abruptly or don't have much follow-through. Antoine doesn't get a proper reaction from his dad for his heroism. Geoffrey does nothing else after failing to bring Elias home. Robbo the Hedgehog simply vanishes. Hope learning to integrate into Mobian society isn't elaborated on, and so on and so forth, etc. You get the picture. But at this point, I guess I just appreciate the heart behind it. That this comic is still willing to inject some meaning into these characters, to create small, if fleeting, touching moments. When nothing matters anymore, it goes a long way. Mina's story may just abruptly fade, but the time I did have with her, it was mostly pretty fun. And that's pretty crazy in itself, where before I hated seeing the freedom fighters have their time taken away from them, now at least the comic is more or less treating every character as equal in the grand scheme of things. It's not lying to me, pretending it has a story to tell or characters I'm supposed to get invested in as leads, besides Sonic and Eggman, that is. And even then, due to the comic's lack of direction, they more so act as an additional perspective rather than a pointed and serious through line. Heck, Shadow the Hedgehog finally gets a proper appearance in the comic, rocking his super form no less, and he instantly gets beaten, gives the heroes a message, and then just chills out in the background as another face in this endless crowd of characters.
Господи, блять, это что за заблудшая душенька? Ребенок залез на дерево, блять, и чё у него с шерстью, почему она рыжая, блять, это не Тейлз.
No one is sacred in Archie Sonic. More than even in the gag era, Archie Sonic has embraced its slice of life in the apocalypse vibe, removing any semblance of an overarching point to all of this. You know, something to be invested in long term, an end game, if you will. In that context, these non-resolutions actually start to have their own weird charm to them. Like life goes on and we just pick up with whoever, whenever. It kind of feels like the comic and I are on the same page now. And since I've accepted that, I've been able to embrace the madness of it all, to embrace the fact that the world of Archie Sonic has become the main character. Welcome to the grand finale of this era, Sonic Adventure 2.5, Alpha and Omega. We start out in space.
Даже звучит страшно. Может, не надо, блять.
With Super Shadow battling this lone spacecraft on the behalf of the BEM, the same alien race that had captured Sonic and Eggman, and who apparently rescued Shadow after the end of the SA2 adaptation. While Shadow ensures that the BEM are able to escape, he's no match for this mysterious attacker and is sent plummeting back down to Mobius. Meanwhile, the comic hones in on Sonic and Sally's restored relationship, their joy at finally being a couple and getting to spend quality time together. They're even planning to get engaged, these silly little teenagers. It seems like our heroes actually have some room to breathe and have fully cemented their desire to live out their days in their peaceful little forest home, a random attack or two notwithstanding. Speaking of which, Eggman is up to his usual world leader assassination tomfoolery, so a Tuesday, and eventually Sonic learns he'll have to face the incoming
Я не могу, какой же отвратительный здесь Shadow. Боже, уберите его.
spacecraft. But hey, that's nothing he and a couple of his closest friends can't handle.
It descended from the heavens and attacked the very heart of my empire.
Да что? Тот самый уродский Арс с ним, боже.
Some kind of flying vessel. Its technology on par with my own.
But if this is all true, who on Mobius is responsible?
Sentient inhabitants of planet Earth. We are the Zorda. Zorda came to this mudsphere to offer an alliance to its human population. Peace. And the Zorda was captured, imprisoned, dissected. The Zorda reaction was a strong one. The Zorda thought their gene bomb extinguished all life here that day. The Zorda have returned to correct that oversight.
What makes Sonic Adventure 2.5 so awesome is its relentless sense of scale. Appropriately, speed is the name of the game. Everything is cranked up to 11 and thrown at you so fast to sell the idea.
Блять, ружь какая-то... Короче, понятно. Ну, хотя да, она новый персонаж, поэтому логично, что у него дизайн такой будет. О, что здесь делает Doomslayer?
Idea that things have never been more dire or chaotic. We've got a full-blown alien invasion, baby. Even the Doctor is in panic mode, literally begging for assistance from our heroes. Super Shadow couldn't even take him. Not only that, but our heroes learn that Knuckles is dead? What?
Чё?
But there's actually something else too. Do you remember the Statue of Liberty? That's right. In a truly bizarre twist, it's revealed that Mobius is our planet, just thousands of years in the future. This way, the furries like Sonic and Sally and Tails aren't as distinct from us as we assumed. They're all an evolution of humans, life that was able to reform following the Zorda's leveling of the planet. And this twist doesn't come out of nowhere. Throughout the series, we've heard of Days of Fury, a forgotten period in Mobius's history that at one point is brought up when our heroes discover Station Square, or the City of the Ancients, a lost civilization going by the name Humans instead of Overlanders. At the time, I just thought it was a way to tie into Sonic Adventure a little more, or that these humans were like the Echidnas, just a secret of society. But no less an Overlander than Eggman or Snively or Hope. Really, I just assumed that all this stuff, that they were just superfluous background elements or something. I wasn't paying that much attention because honestly, I didn't think the comic was capable of something this cool anymore, giving this world a dark, secret past that has come back to haunt our characters. But it might not even just be cool. It might even be way past cool. But this is all just set up for the final confrontation in issue 125. Much like the last part of Endgame, this issue is treated as a celebration of the comic as a whole. Almost every artist contributes, each taking a handful of pages and running with them. The coloring is often beautiful, adding this texture of dirt and grime to this all-out war. It's like all hands are on deck in and out of universe. Everyone is here, fighting to save Mobius in a desperate last charge to destroy the quantum dial. Man, that sounds pretty cool. A machine that, as it rotates, will create a black hole designed to not only destroy Mobius, but the entire star system? Awesome! So much cool stuff.
Масштабы, конечно, не нагнали, будь здоров.
There's Eggman creating this ridiculous mech to fight the Zorda that doubles as a trap for Sonic. Knuckles coming back from the dead to save everyone from annihilation. Look at Big! Look at him! He's got murder on the mind, folks. You better not touch Froggy. Thanks to the narration, too, this whole issue is framed like we're looking back at a landmark day in Mobian history. This miraculous moment where all these disparate peoples came together to save their world. Wow, yeah, that's a genuinely interesting use of self-serious narration. Didn't think the comic had it in it. This is a high-stakes, fast-paced thrill ride from start to finish, and a perfect example of how the world of Archie Sonic has become the central focus. After all this time, the comic has finally come to a head. It's led to something that has weight and meaning, and it does so with pride. I mean, just look at this cover. It's gorgeous and filled with so much
Слушайте, а красиво?
personality. It's so fun to pick out every character, and again, it's insane how much Sonic, Knuckles, Sally, or Amy don't stand out any more than the barrage of OCs and side characters. Heck, every time I look at the cover, my eye instantly goes to Vector, then Mina, then all around until eventually I land on Sonic, who's nearly covered by his own logo. And for some reason, I'm excited to see all these guys. I'm excited to see Monkey Kong fly into battle, to see Station Square soldiers talking with Tails, to see Robbo the Hedgehog, the Arctic Freedom Fighters, and oh boy, is that Sleuth Doggy Dog? It's because of all this
Кто-нибудь его еще помнит?
that I think the distance I decided to establish for myself in the comic has truly paid off. I'm not emotionally invested in seeing these specific characters save the world. I'm excited to see this crazy world embodied by these ridiculous characters and by depicting them in such an extreme and over-the-top way. And those little moments of heart, whether comically dark or small but impactful, did make me feel something for a few of these faces, which adds to my general investment in this world. As has been the case with most of my favorite parts of this comic. It's all about the extreme yet sincere absurdity of it all. And this issue is no different. Finally, after all this time, Sonic and Sally are together, but as the quantum dial begins to turn, its sophistication and scale makes our heroes realize that no one can stop it. No one other than, of course, Sonic. Only he can push the dial counterclockwise with so much force from his speed that it will cause the device to collapse from the inside and explode, saving the world. Sally, of course, begs Sonic not to do it, but deep down, she knows that there isn't really a choice here. It's either Sonic goes or everyone goes. So they share a heartfelt goodbye, and Sonic runs faster than he ever has before. The narration kicks in, but it's not bad. No, it's tasteful and touching. The quiet realization from Tails combined with a shot of a crater left behind gives
конечно, вот тут рисунок прям мое почтение, детализация просто охуенная, и момент воистину завораживает.
Visceral sense of shock and awe to his erasure. We jump forward to see that a statue has been erected in honor of our fallen hero Sonic, who saved the world a lot. And while this is technically true, only for the first time in the entire series does it feel true to me. Sonic wasn't the guy to defeat the original Robotnik. No, that was Snively. Sonic didn't stop Naugus from terrorizing this world. No, that was Nate Morgan. Here, however, for maybe the first time, Sonic steps out and cements himself as the true hero of Mobius. Because this way, and only this way, everyone else would be safe, right? And though the laughter of a friend is no longer heard, his memory will endure. His spirit lives on. The days will be long, the nights longer by far. Can the princess ever accept this irreversible fate? This overwhelming sadness?
Ничего, сейчас пару выпусков, каким-нибудь образом его воскресят.
Can any of them? She's uncertain. As the Mobian moon shines on a world that should have perished, the princess comes to one conclusion. Life is way too short, and indeed, too fast. Wow. I don't know what to say. For so long, I've comforted myself by saying that it doesn't matter. But you know what? After this story, this feels like a true culmination of all these artists' hard work and talents, a suitably epic send-off for this wild and wacky section of the comic. And it's not only good, it's great, a genuine highlight of the comic thus far. It does matter. It really does matter.
Some say that a woman is a zone unto herself. I tend to agree, which is why today we'll be ranking the top 5 hottest Sally Acorns.
What the fuck?
So grab your juice and jam, boys, because here we go! This hottie standing at number 5, Patrick Spaziante Sally. One word, kneecaps. Yondesu. Tracy Yardley has the honor of being one of the 2 artists to depict the wide, wonderful hips that birthed Prince Manic and Princess Sonia, Sonic's children from an alternate reality. Seeing as they're twins, it makes you wonder which one of them has the right to the throne. Now that's a Game of Thrones I'd like to see. Next up is number 3. In one of Sally's most triumphant and empowering tales, we learn of her connection to the source of all, and how it has guided her father in the past by foretelling the future. Sally, however, doesn't want destiny decided for her, and so she courageously rejects her birthright to the throne. But the best part is that Doran Sally is completely nude for the entire story! Is it Christmas? Sadly, due to censorship, they eventually made Sally cover up. What a price to pay. Fortunately, they didn't remove the goo. With all that said, you might be wondering, what could possibly be hotter than a fully unclothed Sally? Well, how about a gun-toting Sally Acorn with even more real estate? What makes J. Axer Sally so attractive is that she's no damsel in distress, using her genius intellect to manipulate her captors and even kneeing Knack the Weasel in the groin. You go, girl. Her flowing hair and admirable hips are just the cherry on top of this rootin' tootin' Sunday. Before we finish, let's dash on over to the honorable mention. While more of a cutie than a hottie, you can't deny that John Gray's Sally is still attractive thanks to her feist and ferocity, though sometimes a bit too fierce of you.
Ёб твою мать, я не знаю, рисунок очень странно выглядит. Понимаешь, это такое большое... Не знаю, немножко напоминает раны Стимки на стероидах.
Ask me. The number 1 hottest Sally Acorn is...
О боже, блядь. Кто-нибудь, пожалуйста, убедите эту извращугу.
Try not to reach to the screen for this one, fellas. What is there to say that the eyes can't behold themselves? Whether it's from the front, back, side, and all the expanse in between, this chipmunk leaves nothing to
Понятно, у
the
этого чувака какая-то, блядь, фиксация на коленных чашечках. Господи, почему это вообще здесь?
imagination. If anyone denies this placement, how dare you? Imagine you got to be Sonic and had the luck of constantly carrying this beauty across the land, with her puffy cheeks and abs like Chuck Norris. These three traits make Stephen Butler's Sally triumph over all other Sallys, and easily makes her the #1 hottest Sally Acorn to be born. My hat goes off to you, Archie Comics. You ought to be proud.
Now that is a turn project! Yeah! 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 Yeah!
Sonic the Hedgehog lies unmoving on the surface of an alien planet. His loved ones and friends, billions of light years away on his homeworld Mobius, believe him dead. And what reason is there for us to think otherwise? Besides his snoring. That's right, folks, we've reached it. My favorite arc of Archie Sonic thus far, Tossed in Space. Yep, I like this even more than those gag-era stories I gave so much praise. Now, there are a few writers who wrote some zany and wacky stories throughout this era, but the vast majority of them have been made by one man. And he's the guy at the head of this arc, too. His name? Well, Carl Bollers. He started writing for the comic during the climax of Endgame and from there became a mainstay. In fact, he's written the vast majority of stories since then. Of course, that means I've had many problems with his style in certain stories, but I've really enjoyed his output in this era. Bollers injects this manic and genuinely super fun energy to a ton of
Но
stories.
опять
as
же, у
well as-
него очень даже неплохой арт. Без шуток. В нем есть какой-то, я не знаю, одновременно кавайный, в то же время немножко такой резкий, эджи стиль. Я не знаю, как это описать. Что очень хорошо контрастирует.
Plenty of heartwarming issues and silly battles. So yeah, I have a ton of respect for what he's brought to the table, especially with the Mina storyline. Heck, he was the guy who wrote the issue where Robo-Robotnik came back, and that stuff was awesome. However, partway through this era,
То есть это... то есть он не рисовал здесь, именно что он писал сюжеты.
something
сорян.
changed. Another individual came on board that Archie Sonic ship, Benny Lee. Let's get this out of the way first. Lee has made some interesting decisions. He was the one who ended off the Fake Tales saga and the one who might have had Sonic nuke Nate Morgan and never bring it up again. And personally, I can't thank him enough for it. Meanwhile, in stark contrast, he's written these genuinely endearing and fun stories too. So yeah, Benny Lee's output more than complements Bollers' style, allowing the two to swap head writer roles near seamlessly. Bollers' style, allowing the two to swap head writer roles near seamlessly. And it's in this arc where they combine to create something truly special. Let's start with Tossed in Space's first issue. Here, Sonic awakens on this faraway planet and helps protect these alien guys. However, when the Bzz attack, he rushes to this planet's own red Chaos Emeralds. Sure enough, he takes on their energy and destroys each and every Bzz in a single page. Except this isn't him. Nah, this is another Super Sonic. See, Sonic was wrong in his assumption that these red emeralds would work the same as the green ones. So while they did make a Supersonic, they didn't make him Supersonic. Instead, that energy manifested Supersonic as a separate being, and as Sonic
Ох, блядь, то есть получается он раздвоил
is
его.
sure to inform us,
Yes.
this can't be good. Without hesitation, Supersonic attacks the ant guys, ravaging the planet. In his regular state, there's no way Sonic can beat him, but still, he faces his foe.
Yo, stupid Sonic! What's your beef? You're supposed to be one of the good guys. Good? Good? Fool, there's no good. There's no evil. There's only power.
Понятно, походу в него этот, как его, Флитвей Суперсоник вселился.
Yo, what a grouch.
Yeah, he's definitely a grouch, considering that he turns to the planet's moons and decides to destroy them just because. Sonic manages to stop him, but that just makes stupid Sonic turn his anger on Sonic himself. He's beating him relentlessly. Sonic won't make it. Oh no, huh? Stupid Sonic vanished? Supersonic's existence is a temporary one at best. True enough, I guess. What really sells this goofy story is how quick and snappy it is. Like, everything here takes place over a measly 18 pages, and a lot of those are dedicated to big boy action. Seriously, my man Stephen Butler has gone full ham. Just look at it. But there's someone else who brings this all together. Jason Jensen, the colorist for these issues. His work makes everything pop right off the page.
Ну, ля, конечно, тени у него выходят шикарно. Опять же, вот покраска здесь просто охренительная.
It's beautiful and gives these locales a truly otherworldly feel, the sheen and polish that I adore. And though pencils will get passed around during these issues, Jensen will remain on colors for the entire arc and far beyond it, giving the comic a wonderful, cohesive visual identity. Story-wise, there's also the fact that this concept is cool, like bringing in the multicolored Chaos Emeralds from the games, but making it that they have different properties attached to them, different ways their energy manifests. It's the type of world building that leaves me curious what other creative things we'll get up to during this arc. Beyond that, Sonic's silly dialogue, the back and forth with stupid Sonic, it's just a ton of fun. But you know what else is fun? Captain Oa's death. That came out weird. Whatever. See, this fella lets Sonic hitch a ride on his transport ship. Even gives him a neural implant so he can understand the aliens now. But, an explosion sends debris crashing into the ship. Wait, there aren't enough escape pods left? Oe paralyzes Sonic with his stinger, launches Sonic away, salutes Sonic right before the ship explodes? Goodbye, Captain Oe. Goodbye.
Yeah,
holy
what?
heck! He's actually dead. That's metal. The art is what really makes this absurdly fast, needlessly tragic death land for me. See, Ron Lim is drawing for this issue. Now, many bemoan Lim's work on this comic, saying it looks ugly and dumb and bad and
Порой действительно выглядит очень странно. Я не знаю, он больше, знаете, подход для каких-то скетчей или стикеров. Все-таки очень такой грубый рисунок.
Okay, you can think that, but counterpoint, who cares? I like it. When combined with the narratives and dialogue of many of these wacky issues, it only enhances the oddball charm of this Sonic and the chaotic plots. It takes even a simple line like, "What are we gonna do?" and adds this facial expression that makes me grin. But his art enhances the rest of this issue even more. See, Sonic's pod crashes on a nearby planet. However, when he steps outside, something is off. Plants grow and die in seconds, the sea freezes and thaws before his very eyes, and Sonic realizes what's happening. He's on a planet where time moves way past fast, and the safest thing to do is wait it out. So he watches life progress outside at an incredible pace. Eventually, though, time slows down and Sonic exits his pod. The locals greet him. They greet their god. See, Sonic has always been there for them inside his pod, unmoving, unchanging. Thus, he became the object of their worship. And finally, technology has progressed enough that they can slow down time and talk with their deity. So Sonic emerges to his people, and they wait for their supposed creator's words of wisdom.
Охренеть, буквально, блядь, жизнь этих, блядь, инопланетян построена на Сонике. Какого хрена?
Well, first thing is, I'm not a god, and I didn't create you either. I got space wrecked here a long time ago. You dudes mistook me for something that I'm not.
But if you're not a god, then what are you?
I'm a hedgehog who's trying to find his way back home.
Hedgehog?
I can't. His face, the art, Sonic's response, it's so stupid. The pure absurdity of Sonic the freaking Hedgehog becoming a god to some random creatures who, by the way, have waged wars on his behalf and many people have died, and I love it. This is the type of insanity I'm here for. But we're about to reach a whole different level of insanity, as a familiar face returns from the past once more. See, Sonic is traveling in the ship his dedicated disciples made for him when he's stopped by Commander Bagbar Breeblebrox. But maybe this isn't so bad. Now he can ask someone what's going on with his ship's instruments. After all, he was supposed to be heading for a planet, but there's no planet here.
Your vessel systems suffer no malfunctions, Sonic the Hedgehog. Terragosa less than 3 hours pass.
But how? What could do that?
Eve.
That's right. The same Eve we met all the way back in issue 21. The same Eve who let Sonic live after he gave her some words of encouragement, telling her to live her own life and find her own purpose. And so she went to be among the stars. Little did Sonic know that he had doomed entire worlds. That because of his simple words, countless would perish. When the people here learn his connection to Eve, they get way past trigger happy, but he escapes. Now it's up to Sonic the Hedgehog to stop Eve, who he set on this path in the first place. This time, though, Sonic won't be fast enough. No, he's already too late. Several hundred parsecs away lies Xenocanar's Prime, Sonic's destination. 4 generations ago, her ecotech successfully devised a way for technology to coexist alongside nature. In the following decades, it became a true utopian society, free of war, famine, disease, and ultimately, death. Until today.
Ёб твою мать. Ну что, Соник, следи за языком. Всегда думай о том, что, возможно, это все за пиздец какой-то. Просто потому, что он ляпнул что-то подобное, и все.
Is Eve. The Xenocanarites barely have time to comprehend their final fate before the process begins. It takes about 15 solid minutes to strip the world of all its metals. 15 solid minutes before mere rock remains. About the time it takes to eat a meal. The first time I read this issue, it's hard to stress how shocked I was. For Eve to return here and now, that was already surprising enough. But then for the writers, for my main man, Benny Lee, to decide that the seemingly hopeful end of that story from all those years ago was really the beginning of the end for so many lives, that Sonic had accidentally created a monster and now he needed to put it down. Who comes up with this stuff?
Я честно, мне здесь вообще немножко напоминает черепашек ниндзя. Тоже вот опять же какая-то важная арка сюжетная, в которой главный герой куда-то исчезает, либо думает, что он умер, и в итоге он переживает безумные космические приключения не на жизнь, а на смерть.
And the scale of what happens here, it's in such a small space, a few pages, and still the comic sells the planet's destruction. How sudden it is, how unexpected, how horrible. It makes this truly feel like the dramatic encounter it should be, and Sonic feels suitably disturbed and distressed over the part he's played in all this. Oddly enough, Sonic's words and actions, all at once, they've never felt smaller, more out of his control, but they've also never felt bigger and more impactful than now either. It's a wild dichotomy, just wow. But of course, there's still an obvious question. Why is Eve doing this? And after he tracks her down, Sonic asks her just that.
Oh, здрасте.
See, Eve truly tried to follow Sonic's advice, but no matter where she went, everyone feared her and tried to eliminate her. Still though, she survived and learned that there were other sentient computers out there, all slaves to the same types of people who hated her. So she decided to liberate them. But Sonic, he's able to see straight through these sorts of contradictions and explains the problems with Eve's mission. After all, if her goal was to liberate the AI, why would she integrate them into herself like this? Why would she make them her servants? Well, Eve has no answer to this, no counter. The simple truth now is that she's no better than the oppressor. Her mission was flawed, and it must be terminated. She must be terminated. So after giving Sonic a new coordinate that will help him on his way back home, she says her final words.
Farewell again, Sonic. This time forever. I'm changing my heading for the nearest star.
Goodbye, Eve. And that's that. She's gone. She was brought back just for this. It's so counter to the original Eve story's message. There as she left, we were given images of pure hope and dialogue that communicated our own ability to define our destiny, to break free of constraints, to choose what we would become. But the comic took that and made it so twisted. It would have been better if Eve never tried to find a new purpose at all. It would have been better if Sonic had kept his mouth shut. And what's the message
Да
here?
ладно,
What am I
на
supposed
самом
to
деле очень неплохо звучит. Прям реально очень прикольная история.
take from that? Seriously. And I love that I don't have an answer for that. This just happened because sometimes in the world of Archie Sonic, life isn't fair. There is no reason. And no matter how much you try to fight against the cruelty, it doesn't matter. The Archie Sonic comic is truly a tragedy. Nah, I'm just messing with you. Not gonna put you through that again. Anyway, next up, the BEM are back. You know, those guys Super Shadow fought to protect. Sonic has arrived at their homeworld. However, something strange is going on there. A seemingly massive trial for someone named Seneca 9009. So Sonic exits his ship and goes to see what's shaken and bacon. However, 2 people spot him among the crowd. Tails' parents.
What the fuck?
That's right, the folks who've been missing since they were children. They're here. But why? Well, 9009 discovered Mobius way back then, a planet where a mad tyrant turned fuzzy creatures into mindless machines. In this specific case, Amadeus Prower. So 9009 transported him and his wife Rosemary away and brought them to the BEM homeworld. She even de-roboticized Amadeus. Still, she wanted to go back and rescue the other Mobians too. But here's the thing. Using the de-roboticizer is illegal here. Why? Well, because its use might have previously resulted in an accidental tragic death of an entire planet's robotic population. You know, just an average Tuesday in the Archie Sonic comic. Either way, 9009 wasn't supposed to do this, so she was tossed into prison for her crimes. And there she waited until finally she was released. And once again, she asked the High Council to consider her plea. So the BEM returned and they handpicked 4 of these creatures, 2 robotic and 2 organic, and forced them to duke it out. If the robots won, then there'd be no de-roboticization. Wait, you mean... But that's the fight they had. And then, hold on, she disobeyed orders and the Robians who had survived de-roboticization were saved and returned to their friends and families, which, holy heck! You're telling me that issue wasn't random? You know that last Robian story with Sonic's dad that I liked, but I said it didn't really make sense, but whatever, it doesn't matter? No, there was a reason for it. It's all related to this. There was, like, a plan, a story, a long-running plot, and...
Если вы, блядь, здесь по факту это было подвешенное ружье?
I can't believe it.
Вот это я понимаю, многоходовочка. От сукины дети.
Why is it so cool? Now, to be clear, there are plenty of reasons for someone to dislike this reveal. After all, de-roboticizing everyone was, at one point, considered a major obstacle for our heroes. Something they should play a part in. This whole BEM plot more or less takes that away from them, which probably should upset me, but again, it somehow doesn't. Like I said before, the world of Archie Sonic has become the main character. This insane, oddball, goofy world that breaks the conventional rules of storytelling to become something completely absurd. And now it's using that to give me these strange reveals that I've never seen anything else quite like this. By now, since I've accepted that this won't be a clean, proper narrative, I'm okay with this. Because it's wacky, it's cool, it's fun. It's Archie Sonic, baby. After all this, though, Sonic manages to find another single-person spacecraft once he breaks 9009 out of prison. She demands he take it, though, and Tails' parents refuse to leave the other behind. So Sonic returns to Mobius, ready to finally see his friends again. And Tossed in Space comes to a close.
Wow.
Do other Archie Sonic fans share my love for this arc? No clue. I doubt it, though. But I hope you can understand why I love it. The consistently solid art, the wonderful coloring, the excellent spaz covers, the snappy, wild, and wacky stories. It took the goofy fun of the gag era, combined it with the dark comedy of this era, and gave me the most fun version of Sonic I've had in, well, a long, long time, and it's incredibly unique to boot. Again, I can't think of anything else quite like this. And a big part of that was these insane reveals, this attention to detail and past material and continuity that I thought the comic had lost long ago. This way, I was able to enjoy this section in ways I didn't anticipate at all. Like at first I thought, oh good, we're away from the rest of the comic, Sonic can just do goofy stuff now. And he does. But a good chunk of that seemingly goofy stuff ties back into the larger world of the comic in incredibly compelling ways to me. As always, Archie Sonic knows how to keep me on my toes. It knows how to surprise me. And somehow, no matter how much it can push me away at times, it pulls me right back in. Great job, Benny Lee. Great job, Carl Bollers. You both.
Не, реально, звучит шикарно. Я очень такие, знаете, знатные ассоциации с черепашками-ниндзя из их арка черепашки в комиксе. И вот, блядь, очень достойно на самом деле. Если к первому выпуску у меня были вопросы, потому что там действительно было много странных историй, и здесь поначалу тоже, то вот действительно прям под конец в видео пошел настоящий разнос по плохим сюжетам.
There's just one little thing. I have a confession to make.
Давай.
I lied to you earlier. We were all lied to. Because Benny Lee isn't real. Benny Lee is Carl Bollers.
What the fuck?
That's right. The insanity of this era of the comic just keeps going. Bollers created a pseudonym, Benny Lee, under which he would write many of the wacky stories we've come to know and maybe, if you're like me, love, right alongside the just as wacky stories written under his actual name. So, why would he do this? Well, some say he did it because he believes Sonic fans weren't fond of some of his work on the comic and felt that at this point, maybe that simply stemmed from some sort of annoyance with him in particular, rather than the quality of the stories. You know, they stopped giving him a chance, that kind of thing. Or maybe he just did this because it was funny, which, to be fair, it really is. I mean, the man interviewed himself in the comics part of the bit. I love it.
Ладно. Это забавно, на самом деле. Хорошо так подъебал аудиторию.
At least, I did at first See, the only proof I could find that Lee and Bowlers are one and the same was some old forum post where a seemingly close friend of Ken Penders casually spilled the beans. So not exactly the most direct or definitive proof. Even if within the comic there are some clues to this connection, like both Lee and Bowlers having Sonic say "Hasta la vista, mister" in their writing, or how Benny, Lee, and Bowlers would follow up on each other's plots, like with the Bem abducting the Mobians. However, I knew I wouldn't be satisfied until I found a direct quote from Bowlers himself. And as I searched and scoured the internet for answers, I sadly found nothing.
Жаль. А можно как-то с ним связаться?
So I just asked him. I'm not weighing in explicitly on whether or not I wrote under the Benny Lee pen name, but the answer is in the body of the full interview for those who are astute enough to make the connection. So yeah, instead of a straightforward answer, I got a cheeky and not so subtle wink from Bowlers. Sounds like a Benny Lee response to me. And as was mentioned in the reply, I also got an interview with the guy. The full thing's linked in the description. Bowlers basically wrote a whole paragraph or two for every one of my questions, which was super cool of them, so definitely check it out. And as for the answer hidden within the interview, I would imagine it's a reference to how he lists off a bunch of Benny Lee stories that we made as examples of how comedy often balanced out the seriousness of his run, and then he follows that up by saying whatever kinds of stories he told that he wanted them to be compelling.
Это на самом деле классно. Вот реально рад, что он мог связаться и нормально с ним поговорить. Woo!
However, honestly, the most interesting parts of this interview didn't really have to do with Lee. Nah, they had to do with Bowlers' feelings about working on the comic as a whole. If I could go back, there's a lot I'd do differently. I still had a lot to learn about story, character, and juggling a huge cast of characters. As a result, my run on Sonic was a bit of a mixed bag. I was literally learning in public and couldn't roll with the punches as smoothly at all times, and for that, I apologize to fans for the unevenness of the run. That said, I'm very proud of many of the stories, but I'll also be the first to admit others would have been better left on the cutting room floor. Had I been more experienced, that definitely would have affected my approach to storytelling, as well as the stories I chose to tell. A lot of the early stories are overridden and plot-centric when I should have just allowed the art to convey the emotion of what was happening. However, I truly loved working on Sonic, and the characters will always hold a special place in my heart. I'm grateful to have been allowed the opportunity to take that journey for as long as Archie allowed me, even getting a chance to work on Knuckles toward the end, and thank all the other writers as well as artists, inkers, colorists, letterers, and editors who contributed. But most of all, I'm eternally thankful to the Sonic fandom as well, who have always voiced their honest opinions and kept it real with regard to the character they love so dearly. Voiced their honest opinions. Yeah, I've definitely done a good deal of that, haven't I? Especially earlier on in this retrospective. The world adventure, the aimless lead up to Robotnik's return, a lot of that was Bowlers, and I made my frustrations clear. But in the end, with Adventure 2.5, the Space Arc, and really a lot of stories in this era, I've got to say, regardless of which name he wrote under, Bowlers managed to hone his sometimes self-serious style from something like the Ixis Naugus fight, and combine that with a craziness and focus on fun that I absolutely adore. Insane art or otherwise. And that's just in addition to all the other genuinely sweet stories that we've discussed over the course of this video. Truly, this comic wouldn't have been anywhere near as wild and unique if not for Bowlers' contributions. And regardless of anything else, I had a blast reading this section of the comic and discussing all of it today. All in all, great job, Benny Bowlers. You've done good, and your hard work on this comic matters to me. With that, we've wrapped up what me and my co-writer Ian Waffles have affectionately dubbed the way past insanest era of the Archie the Sonic the Hedgehog comic. At this point, I've become entranced by the strange, weird world of Mobius and beyond, and endeared to many of its characters and plots for a variety of reasons, intentional or otherwise. Really, this comic may get stupid, it may get bad, it may get annoying, but you know what else it always is? Memorable and fascinating. And sometimes it's just absurd fun. So yeah, all in all, I actually can't wait to continue this journey with you as Sonic finally returns home.
Ooh, baby. Что там в конце? What the fuck?
Wake up! Oh good, you're awake. Where Go on, start your presentation. Presentation? Yes, your presentation. Did you forget? I don't know. You know. You can't run away any longer, right? I don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe this will jog your memory.
Страшный мужик.
I tried to do this the nice way, Dad.
What?
You're Lowart Prime, the progenitor, the father of all Lowarts. And I wanted to be kind to you the same way any son should be to their father. But you just kept forgetting about him.
I can't.
Come on, class. It looks like Daddy needs some encouragement.
What the fuck? What the fuck was that? Какого черта, блять? Это все? Понятно. То есть тут отдельно эта штука. Ой, блядь, короче, вот так мы заканчиваем это приключение. Закончилось на довольно классной ноте. Действительно шикарными выпусками, которые, ну, реально звучали неплохо. Огромное уважение, респект и лайк за данный материал. Спасибо большое, Лорд. Но, блядь, концовка какая-то кринжовая, если честно, получилась. Боже, уберите Педерса, уберите, пожалуйста, господи, блядь, он пугает меня своим артом. Короче, это было классное приключение. Сорян за задержку, пришлось это перезаписывать. Да, сорян за задержку. В любом случае, респект и лайк, спасибо за заказ. И спокойной ночи, дружки-пирожки.